The following program contains views that are not those of WVTC, iNetworks Communications, their subsidiaries, affiliates, or financial supporters.
Hey, good afternoon. Once again, welcome to the Parson'S Porch. I'm excited to have you join me again on the porch for a little conversation with my guest today. A welcome, Apostle Carl White.
Bless you.
My lifetime friend.
I tell you.
That I invited to come and share with us today in reflection as we commemorate the life and times and with a great deal of sadness, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
On April the 4th. I'm excited to have him as my guest today. He consented to come with not the longest notice, and so I greatly appreciate him. I really wanted to have this conversation with Apostle White, who leads the Southland Ministerial Health Network. And also, of course, he's the senior pastor, visionary, overseer, dreamer, and aggressive pastor of a Victory Christian International Church. And so, but I wanted him to come because he's a pastor and a kind of a minister after my own heart. And one of our shared values has been our overriding interest in what happens to people after the benediction. And so I really wanted him to come because I think that as we reflect on the times we are presently in and the times we are looking forward to, Apostle,
Yes.
If there was ever a time when prophetic and not pathetic pastors are going to be required and needed, I think what you have represented in the past in terms of giving leadership, bringing coalitions and collaborations between pastors and churches and the secular, governmental, social society has been commendable.
Thank you.
Because so many of our pastors have isolated themselves within the four walls of the church, and their only focus has been the people, and that's on Sunday morning. And so I'm excited to have you here. Now, let me, before we get started on what I really wanted to talk about specifically, I know that you had a very, very important meeting today that I think a whole lot of pastors and a whole lot of churches and church members would be very interested in. And so you told me you were going to a meeting this morning with one of the commissioners from Cook County, and they were talking to church leaders about tax exemption for the churches and all the new requirements. And I think that's going to be very helpful. So make some notes of while Pastor White gives us a little debriefing about what happened in that meeting that you and I could not attend. But I asked him if he would mind to give us some information that will help all pastors and all churches. And if your pastor church is not watching, hey, write it down and make sure you share it with them.
I thank God for you, Pastor Parson. You are a well-rounded man of God and preaching the word, living the word, and having God use you as a way of helping others. And you've been doing that ever since I can remember, all the way back to sharing with myself as a young pastor, just taking over my church out in Ford Heights.
Yeah, I remember.
And you and J. Herbert Hinkle
Yes.
were great mentors to me as I was learning how to pastor people who ain't easy to pastor.
Well, that's true. Absolutely. I guarantee you that's the truth. And it's still true after all these years.
That part does not change. We were with our county commissioner today, Larry, and we were able to discuss. There are many churches who have properties that they have not checked their properties to make sure they're not on the tax rolls.
Okay.
And then a lot of our churches bought buildings that were not churches and turned them into churches.
So they were commercial properties.
Exactly, commercial properties. And so if you did not file the proper paperwork, even though they didn't come after you for taxes then, there might be a buildup and they can just take that property because you have some paperwork you need to put together. And as property owners, you cannot own it yourself as a pastor. There's got to be, it's got to be owned by the church. So you need a group of people on that so that, like when I got this new church, even though it's a church building and it was a church, but now that we acquired it, we have to make sure we go and file for our church name to be on there so that we are tax exempt. Otherwise, they can come back and say that you're not tax exempt because the name of your church ain't the name of the building we bought.
I got you.
So
the exemption was for the previous occupants of the building.
Exactly.
And not yourself.
Exactly.
And the other thing you just said, I understood, and I want to make sure that everybody else understands it. And that is, if you buy a building that's designated commercial, which is the truth with so many of our churches that people have called, traditionally, storefront churches or churches that are right off the sidewalk.
Exactly.
And we get those churches and we convert them, those buildings, and we convert them to churches. But if you don't register that building and the business in that building as a non-commercial building and as a religious entity or not-for-profit, then what he's saying is the county assessor could still be assessing you taxes on that building as a commercial building as opposed to a church. And you may not know it, but your name may now be on the tax roll for a tax sale because you've not paid any taxes on the building, even though you're a church and you would have been exempt, but you didn't file.
Exactly. And Larry Rogers broke that down today as our commissioner, and he was letting it be known that there is no way for him to help you if you're not listed as the person, as the church that is
Gotcha.
there. So I was very thankful for us to be able to, let me cut that thing off there, that we are able to help churches and pastors not get caught up in that, and don't wait till the last minute. If somebody tells you what you're doing and why you need to do this, investigate it. Don't act like you already know what to do. Or I'm a witness that there's so much I don't know.
Well, there's so much a lot of us don't know, especially when your focus has not been on the legal system or all of these hidden tax codes and laws and the amendments and stuff.
And they change all the time.
That you don't pay any attention to.
And you shouldn't, because that ain't who you are and what you do, but you need somebody to do that, and you need to oversee them.
Well, that's why I say that every pastor, you need to make sure that you have a team of people who are effective, efficient, and professional for anything you're going to encounter as an entity or a body of people.
The staff determines the program, and the program determines how you run your facility.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you don't have a good staff, you ain't gonna have good maintenance of the building and of the ministry at all, because our focus is to win souls for Jesus Christ, preach the gospel, oversee them, visit the sick, and so forth. But you got to have a staff even for that, because you can't.
It's required, or else you spend all your time doing what Christ intended to liberate us from, and that was serving tables.
Ooh.
And so what has happened is a lot of pastors have really replaced the diaconate in doing the duties of the deacons
Yes.
While the duty of the deacon has become that of the pastor in many cases.
In many cases.
Where they supervise the church and the pastor's just doing the visitation.
Well, Jesus had 12 men with him, and he delegated to them to do a lot of the work that was necessary so he could face the things that he needed to deal with. I don't do the things that the things that the old preacher used to do. God bless his heart. I love him, and my daddy was one. But the things that he was doing, I told him, Dad, you need to focus more on this. And at first he did not want to hear that, but later on he told me, he said, son, I guess that's why I sent you to school.
Well, I agree, and he was right, and he made a good point. In other words, he expected you to grow.
Yes, that's
past
right.
The point of his own development.
That's the statement, man. You just hit me upside the head with that one. Dad was like that. He was willing to do that, and
that's
so
why I sent you further than I sent myself.
That's what he said.
So you can help me when you got back.
I'm so grateful that you invited me to come here today and to be in the studio. I'm working with this great group, and I'm excited about what they're doing. I have not seen nor has ear heard what's going to happen with this station and this group of young men.
Oh, well, I definitely agree, which is why I've attached myself to it. And plus, I've had a long-standing relationship with the Morris family, but I didn't know that he was involved in this enterprise.
Isn't that
matter of fact, I baptized Dr. Morris.
What?
And I licensed and ordained his dad as a pastor, also in my church.
Is that fascinating?
Absolutely. So I have this connection. And when we came together, I said, man, wait a minute. Are you kidding me? And I had no idea until it was brought to my attention. But when I discovered what he was doing with the content and the network on 8 different platforms, and so it's global. There's nowhere you can't be seen.
Isn't that fantastic?
And so it's so important, that we lift this up and encourage our members, one, to download the app. You can get it on Roku, on any smart TV.
Yes.
You can download on Apple TV, on the Apple Store. Anyway you can get anything else, you can get this app. So.
I'm so proud of him. They came out to my church, and I was introduced by one of my sons in ministry, who's part of my covenant churches, Pastor Treadwell. Apostle Treadwell, his dad and mom, and my dad and mom, they were all friends back in the day.
I watched him one day on the network.
Yeah, he's fantastic and a great brother. And I've got these sons and daughters in ministry who's with the Victory Covenant churches, and they just do so much.
Well, also, I ran into his brother. I was preaching at a church in Fort Worth.
In Texas, yeah.
In Fort Worth, he's with a Pastor Larry Atkins.
Yes.
Who has an outstanding church in Fort Worth. And when I walked in, who was sitting there but Treadwell at the altar? And it blew my mind. So yeah, I've known that family for a long time. I used to preach for his dad when he was over there on Lake Street. And you have to wait till a train go by to complete your sermon.
I did a couple of revivals over there for his dad.
Yeah, so I know the family well.
Really, really wonderful.
But let me ask you, Pastor, one of the things that I have been dealing with it was some of my guests over the past few weeks, especially during Black History Month of February. We looked at the role of the church in creating and shaping Black history with a whole lot of important and significant guests. But the one thing that we pretty much put our finger on is that while we talk a lot about what the Black church has done, it appears that the most silent voice in the community when it is needed the most right now appears to be the Black church. And when we talk about the Black church, we talk about, of course, those 7 major African-American denominations that we tend to look at as a collective of significant Black religious groups that have national followings and bodies, they appear to be really silent. And I'm not understanding what has happened to the Black church, so to speak, that the voices have been silent. What has happened to the leadership, and what do you see as a way or a strategy for getting pastors to become more interested and more focused? Because one of my questions to you sometime during this hour, of course, is going to be how cooperative are pastors with your efforts when they don't have anything to do with the personal benefit. How easy is it to get pastors and ministers involved for the sake of people as opposed to something that will also help them?
I'm disturbed at just having church as opposed to being the church.
Right.
Some pastors never mention anything beyond the walls of their church to change the community. I guess with you as a mentor with J. Herbert Hinkle and Princeton H. McKinney, and I played golf with Bishop Ford and all of them. I was a learner, but I had great teachers. Not to just talk about what's going on in the church, but to get out and walk the street and find out the needs and then help meet those needs. The very next thing I want to mention is politically. Politically, we got to be engaged in what's going on in our nation, in our world. And we got to speak out against it. Dr. King came out of the church into the street, and he challenged us. When I read the book about what took place with that first group that went down to Alabama, to Birmingham.
Right.
And I read that book and saw what they did to them. They beat them, they did this, and they withstood it. They came into an agreement to say, if we don't stand this against this now, we will never break this yoke that's on our people. And they were beaten. The Dr. King and the others that were down there, and I got names in my head, can't think of all of them, but we got to come outside the walls. You've always advocated that. Jesse Jackson used to pick me up and tell me, come on, fly with me. We're going to California, we're going to this. And I went to California with him, and their budget was, they couldn't meet their budget. They weren't going to be able to pay the county people in LA County. I saw Jesse Jackson go into the room, took me with him, and met with the president of LA County Board and said, wait, here's what we're gonna do. When she told him, I might have to shut the county down, he made a phone call to Clinton on the red phone.
Mm-hmm.
And when he made the phone call, he says, I need you to send $6 million to LA County. Otherwise, they're gonna have to shut it down and they ain't gonna look right for you. By the time he got through explaining and got off that phone, he sent $6 million by saying, I'm gonna give you the $6 million to LA. While we're walking, he's talking and I'm writing down what he's gonna say when he gets up to, and he goes up and tells LA County that the president of the county and him and the president of the United States have talked, and he's going to give them the $6 million. And LA County stayed over. We go outside the county building, get up on a flatbed truck, and Jesse Jackson announces it, which says a black preacher intervened and kept the county open. That's the kind of thing that just inspires me, because his sermon was a reality.
It's true.
It wasn't going to become a reality. It was a reality. His sermon that he said out there and what we did with that president, that lady now got reelected.
See, it's about caring about what happens to the people
Yes.
when they walk out the door.
Yeah.
And you can't say that you didn't know. You drive through the neighborhoods where your members live. And you see what they have on, you see the kind of cars they drive, you see how many come on buses, how many have bus passes. When they arrive, you pass by some of them when they're leaving church, after church on Sundays, waiting for the bus.
Yes.
And you're going like, well, oh, I didn't know that they were that bad off. There's no way not to know. If they're African Americans. My question to both black and white pastors is, who are the least of these?
Oh.
It's like we live in an era now where the churches, for the majority, at least of the white churches, we know it in America, is anti-sympathy.
Oh, yes.
So you can have sympathy for people who walk in 1,000 miles or 1,500 miles with their children on their backs and their necks with no shoes, leaving everything behind. And you call them invaders and vermin, and they act like they're going to Disneyland. Who would walk 1,000 miles to Disneyland? I don't know nobody in Chicago who walked to Great America. So nobody's gonna walk 1,000 miles. So it just tells you how callous our character and our morality has become when the only people we love, in fact, in this country, the only people who the Christians appear to love are people who look just like them, because everybody else is quiet while all of the fairness that has been carved out over all of these years of American history through sweat, blood, lynching, and toil, negotiations and marching, and people dying, and now it's all being turned back with the stroke of a pen from a very hateful individual who decided that diversity and inclusion and equity are bad words, that fairness is divisive. Well, when did being fair become a divisive issue? It's only a divisive issue to people who don't want to be fair.
Man, you can't put us as equal with you and then say, now you got to take us in inclusion out of it. When we were in the fields chopping cotton, picking cotton, we were not included in the money of being able to own the business. And now that we're coming to that statement, now what you're trying to do is push us back. And if we don't watch that, that will happen.
Well, I think my problem with it is that most of our ire has been focused on one individual, but that one individual only had one vote.
Right, right.
And when you look at the fact, and this is where I think, so much of our focus has been on the White House.
Yes.
But it needs to be on the church house.
Yes.
85% of white evangelicals voted, and 90% or more of the Southern Baptist pastors supported this guy.
Yes.
So my issue has become to them we're going to reconcile. How can you reconcile with people who are advocating policies that are completely adverse to your prosperity, to your sustainability, and to your having access to a level playing field?
I want to be able to have this discussion with some evangelicals at the table, with us discussing how you voted for a man who's that vengeful, who should have went to jail, and you gave him a play on that, who has shown his arrogance and his divisiveness in so many ways. How do you feel about that?
How do you reconcile that?
And here's a man who women had come up and told you that he had some,
paying charges now.
And exactly, he's a criminal, And you talking about locking our boys up for a little bit of nothing for 2, 3, 4, 5 years doing stuff like he's done, and you want to give him a way out.
Man, people have gone to jail, generals, for 8 or 9 years for having a top secret document.
Yes,
in their possession.
I mean, but the challenge for us is they will not come like right now and discuss honestly and openly.
So what we have to do is challenge them publicly.
Yes, we got to do that.
It's got to be. We have to challenge the churches.
Yes.
But I think a part of our problem, though, and you can give me your opinion, is that a lot of our pastors in our communities have gone to seminaries that are funded by, and the theological perspective is that of the dominant culture. And these guys have been taught that they shouldn't have anything to say about this because they don't understand that all of the positions that Republicans are taking are position papers that have been presented to them by evangelical pastors.
Oh, yes.
But see, because they try to make people believe that we're not in politics, when in fact, politicians don't have moral positions. It's not the politicians who care about transgenders. That's an evangelical issue. It's not politicians who care about pornography. It's not politicians talking about who's playing on what team. That's all an evangelical issue.
Yes.
And the idea of immigrants and people being taken off the streets, like in Russia or China now, just picked up by 3 or 4 people right on the street. Somebody just walk up in front of you and throw you in a van and send you off to another country.
Where is the voice of that evangelical situation in these types of things that are happening? There's no way that the Republican, Democrat, and all of that stuff that they're, however you want to put it, that the evangelicals shouldn't be saying something about what they're doing, what you just said. How do you see somebody? How
do you square that with your morality and what's fair to people?
And disregard the judge that turned the plane around. There's a man on the plane.
It's okay to break the law as long as it's this one person.
Well, the law is being transcribed in another way by him and his supporters.
Well, would you have to say that? But there's no outcry.
That's what I'm saying.
The way it should. And so what it says to me, it is not about rightness or righteousness.
No.
It's only about whiteness.
Right.
And until we call it what it is in this day and time, the only reason that there is support and silence, even with people having lost. Now you think about this. If Obama had caused rich people to lose $17 trillion, $17 trillion in 3 days, it would be people around the White House now with guns trying to kill him. $17 trillion has been lost in the stock market in the past 3 days. People's fortunes have been wiped out. People whose retirement was dependent upon how much the company was worth that they retired from.
Here's another thing. That's the main issue with this thing that's taking place. But Social Security, veterans benefits.
Social Security is not an entitlement program. People paid into Social Security, so it's not a gift.
I'm telling you, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I expect to get my check from the VA. They've changed that. I mean, everything that this guy can change and not pay. My daughter works for the IRS, and her fear, and the people who work in the office, every day when a new person come through the door and they don't know who they are, they wonder, did they come to fire us? And they went to school, got their degrees and finance, and they come back to give it service to their country. And now you have somebody like Elon Musk to come in and with some boys, and I don't know who elected him. I don't know where his election came from, but these guys just go in and uproot everything that this country was built on and that was running smooth until we reelected this person.
And silence.
Nobody.
Well, my question, I don't expect a politician.
No.
I expect, because I know that the power in the country is in three places: the people, the press, and the pulpit.
Ooh, you know, I like the way you put that. That's right.
And so it's not the politicians who run anything. And so we can aim at them, but they are not the sponsors, they're not the catalysts, and they're not the ones putting the money behind everything that's going on. And we can be silent and pretend these are wonderful people who were on TV for a year, and if you didn't read the newspaper, you wouldn't have known that anything was happening to George Floyd out on the streets. And you could watch every televangelist, black and white, on national TV, and you would have no way of knowing that somebody had been murdered right in view of the cameras, and that millions of people all over the country was marching. And until it was being characterized on one network specifically as a riot going on.
Yes.
And so when you understand that we have this vacuum from the religious community about everything that's going on outside the church, you can't help but understand this is called, I would call it prophetic malpractice.
Great statement.
Because you are not practicing the appropriate level of visionary and spiritual discernment if you can't share with your people what is moral and what is immoral and what is right and what is wrong, and how you got to love more than people who look like you.
I raised the issue in my church. I can't help but raise issues. They tore up the Black Lives Matter street
block plaza in DC,
and said the reason we're gonna tear it up, you better get out of the way, is we will cut your money to your city.
Right, they threatened DC
if you don't do it. I went to Minnesota and went to the place where George Floyd was killed. I got a chance to view all of that, and I preached up there while I was there, and when I thought about how this man is talking about releasing the guy
who killed him,
who put his knee on his neck, and talking about a pardon, and we got boys in jail who were never even proven guilty of anything. They had a possibility. They never think about pardoning or releasing our folk like that.
Well, you have to talk to Kanye West and Mike Tyson and Lil Wayne.
Yeah.
And all the other, and the pastor who did the prayer at the inauguration for Trump.
Yeah.
You have to talk to them and ask them, you don't see what's going on. But once again, our greatest challenge has got to be directed not to these white religious leaders.
I got it.
And churches, man. And we have to buy pages in the Sun Times and the New York Times and put our money together and say, how is it moral? Who are the least of these in your eyes? Because number one, I've always wondered why white churches can get these videos of what they do in Africa with little black kids with flies coming all out their ears and around, swarming around their nose, and you're feeding them. And there's some black kids in your city, every city where white churches are sending missionaries.
Yeah.
There are people in worse condition in their own city, but they don't want to put a bad light on the politicians that they sponsor to let people know that these kind of conditions are going on in our country. So the only place we're going to support missionaries and go to Africa, but like we love black people, we just don't like the ones, who
live around the corner. We don't want them coming to our church.
Not down, if they come, they're not going to do anything but sit. We'll talk about an integrated church, but it won't be integrated administration.
Right. They none of them working in the office.
No, sir. Period. You may get in the choir and you might get a chance to direct.
Well, what I found is that they're trying to turn it into, when we make statements like we're making now, a racist statement from us, as opposed to it being a racist action from them.
Well, see, racist can only, racist and racism can only be implemented by people who are in power.
That's right.
Because prejudice is a feeling that I could have because of your color.
Yeah.
But racism is the result of my prejudice.
Yes.
And that means I start developing practices, laws, and ways because of how I feel about you to make sure I don't have to have contact with you socially, economically, on my job, or where I live. I'm gonna make sure you live in a certain area so I don't have to meet you.
Don't have
See,
to.
that's racism.
Yes.
Racism is the result of prejudice.
Yes.
But you have to have power to be a racist.
Yes.
You don't have to have any power to be prejudiced.
I got it. I love it. I love what you're saying. You're proper. It's amazing how we are separated by what you just said, by racism.
In church, that's what I can't get. We all said we follow Jesus Christ and brother, I love your brother, and we got to reconcile, and this brother is
greatest segregation is on Sunday.
On Sunday. And to know that the pastor of First Baptist in Dallas is said to have the biggest shrine to Donald Trump in the whole corner of his office. He's devoted to everything Donald Trump mugs, just anything you can name, in the First Baptist Church of Dallas, Texas, in the office of the pastor. This is a man who's out hawking Bibles and got a version of his Bible. Anybody else, they would have said this was heresy.
Sacrilege.
Sacrilegious to be doing. And here's a prominent pastor of one of the largest churches in America with a shrine in it, just a huge collection of just Donald Trump memorabilia and homage to this guy as the greatest thing that ever happened. Silence, anti-sympathetic Christians who said that being fair is being divisive. They're giving people who have been locked out is a bad thing. But it's because what has happened is these people have come up in an environment where they have a shared value system. And their value system for other people, other than people who look like them, is that they are less than me. And for a lot of white people, as it refers to Black people, the feeling is because they've always talked about how lazy and how trifling and how they don't want to work Black people are. And well, for me, and I'm gonna my grandmother would say, stick a pin right there.
Yeah.
And hold that point.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to talk about a lazy person, what do you call a person who hires somebody to drive them around? What do you call a person who has a baby and then pays somebody to come in their house and live to take care of their baby? What do you call a person who doesn't make up their own bed, but gets a room downstairs for somebody to live who comes and make up their bed when they get out? And what do you call a person who go in their kitchen but never touch the pot because they hired somebody to cook for them? See, white people would say that's a wealthy person. Yeah. I would say it was a lazy person.
Yes. I got it.
Only a lazy person don't want to drive.
No.
Only a lazy person don't want to cook your own food sometimes. A lazy person don't want to take care and interact with your own kids.
Yes.
Only a lazy person.
And then if you don't interact with your kids and they start growing towards the person you sent to interact with them,
then you fire them and get somebody else.
Jealousy arrives.
Absolutely.
There.
Competition.
Because you act like you care more about her than me. Well, she took care of me.
She nurtured. She gave me love. You gave me stuff.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And that's where we are, So
let me ask you this question. where are the voices that we used to have, like Clay Evans, yourself, the pastors that we know who would step up in this place right now?
Yeah.
That are we more just trying to make sure we create an audience online? Are we more concerned about the 1,000 that we can have and what are they doing? And I'm not saying they're not doing anything.
Well,
but
I'm
where
saying
those voices that we need, we're missing some voices right now.
we're missing a lot of voices. Back in Kings, I excerpted a sermon. I did at a conference in New York last year. The question was, is there another prophet in town? And that was a question asked by a king who just had a meeting with 400 prophets. And after meeting with 400, his question was, is there another prophet who would tell me what I need to hear and not what I want to hear?
Yeah.
And my question at that point in one junction in the message was, if in this small agricultural community and kingdom, there was 400 prophets, and he still couldn't find one who would tell him the truth. And he had to ask, in that small neighborhood and community, is there another prophet in town? So just imagine, if the ratio is 400 fake prophets to one real one, what would it be like in Chicago with 15 or 20,000 preachers? And you talking about, you gonna name 3 or 4 people we were talking about who were prophetic and courageous enough to speak. So the problem is, why aren't we raising more prophets than people getting those Saturday night specials together so they can kill them on Sunday? I mean, why aren't there more people concerned about the fact that if your people get fired and don't have a job, and a whole lot of the jobs that you bragging about, I got people who do this and that, the only reason they got it was because of DEI. So why aren't you talking now? Because they don't have to be included no more. And the human resource person can fire and hire whoever he chooses to, and you can't even file a suit say they discriminated against me, because there's no law about discrimination.
Yes.
And so if you're not concerned about the fact that real soon your offering basket is going to be much lighter than it's been because of what's happening, and you saying that ain't my business and I ain't no politician, you don't have to be a politician to be somebody who cares about people going hungry, people losing their jobs, people being fired arbitrarily, or people not being able to get a job no matter how qualified they are.
Man, Pastor, you have hit the nail on the head. So there's sometimes there's a loss for words, because everything that we're talking about now is things that have been in my spirit, that's I've been challenging my sons and daughters in ministry. Don't just get up and enjoy preaching on a Sunday. Preach what you're going to do on Monday. I got things that I got to address in the community. And that's why the Southland ministers, I try to make sure we give out information, inspiration, and show that we're trying to gain the community's trust through our thrust, to show that we're trying to help them become they need to be, to know something that they didn't know and didn't know how to act. Some of the stuff you said today causes me to want to go back and add some more stuff so some more knowledge can come. Going to school and learning from the evangelicals how we ought to do it ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, we know what our neighborhood needs and where the needs are.
And what they look like.
Yes.
And if you're not going to affect change, who's going to affect change? You know, I give you this little brief example. It's kind of like a pastor I knew once, and I met him at a convention one year in September. And he said to me, Pastor, you know, I'm about to leave that church. I said, really, guys, how things are going on? I'm about to leave them people. They're the dumbest people I ever met in my life. And I'm going like, well, how long you been there again? He said, I've been there 29 years. And so I'm saying to myself, well, if they're dumb after 29 years, it's surely not their fault.
It ain't their fault.
You know, it's got to be your fault.
That's right.
And so if you are a pastor and you driving through a neighborhood, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, man, this is one of the worst neighborhoods in the city. Well, how long you been pastor? Your church been here? Oh, we've been here on this corner 15 years.
Man.
And nothing has changed, and you here with it. I said, you're not a change agent, which is what you and your church are supposed to be. You're not there just to have a private little club for people drive in and meet on Sunday and shout and go home.
When I moved in this new church, I got a lot of glass, and I was having a concert one night, and we saw fire. There were about 5 or 6 units. This town was built, Park Forest was built for white soldiers coming from the war, not black soldiers.
Right.
White soldiers. They got a lot of townhouses, and they finally started building some houses. And when I saw the place burn, I when it was over, my church went over to see how people had been burnt out. We own a few properties, so we were able to house some people. That Sunday, I told the people that had lost their stuff, come Sunday, we got clothes. We put some people in hotels and helped them get on their feet. Of course, those people end up, some of them moving other places. Some of them joined our church.
Of course.
Whether you joined or not didn't matter.
No, it's caring.
We went and did that for them. And I found myself trying to help them as much as I could. Come to find out, one of them was the custodian head of my son-in-law's church,
Wow.
Valley Kingdom, where Ray Beatty is at now.
Okay.
With where H. Daniel Wilson was there. Then come find out some other people were kin to some folk that went to my church. And we didn't do that because we didn't know who they were.
Amazing.
And to find out that that the community was so, the mayor and some of the elected officials came over to congratulate us for that. We said we didn't do it for congratulation. We did it because of need. Whatever the need is in your area,
It's who we are. It's just like breathing. So don't congratulate me for breathing.
right?
That's how I stay alive. That's how the church thrives.
Man, if the house burned down, the people now are back in their home after they built it, but we happen to have another house. We let them rent from us.
Wow.
Till they got back on their
Well, that's
feet.
what the church should be doing. Those are the kinds of things, but you wouldn't know that
Yes.
if all you do is drive in and video you and your wife getting out the car,
Yeah.
going in the service and waving and, the service in the background, and you get in your car and going back home, someplace else, and ignore what's going on around you. Well, recently I heard a pastor say, or someone, and I know really well, and I was shocked to say that helping poor people doesn't have anything to do with blessings, or it don't have anything to do with how moral you are. And I could not believe that I heard those words from somebody that people tend to think a lot of. But there's a lot of craziness. Let me ask you, Pastor, if people in the Southland area of the city, ministers and pastors who are watching, would like to become a part of the Southland Ministerial Association, how should they reach out to you? You want to give them some numbers or tell them when you meet? Because I think what you're doing in organizing pastors for effective community outreach is critical. And that's why we're here, to expose the church and the church community, who's our target audience. Of course, we would love to have a broader, and hope to have a broader audience going forward. But how do we get to the point where we reach these people? And what you're doing is key. So I want you just to tell them, how to get to you, how often you meet,
Yes.
and how they can get in touch with you.
I appreciate that so very much. The Southland Ministerial Health Network meets on the third Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
We meet at 9:30. We move it around to different.
So now your next
churches.
meeting is what date specifically?
Actually, it's next Wednesday.
Your next meeting is next Wednesday.
Yes.
And so today's date, what is the 9th? The 9th. So that would be like what, the 16th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So April the 16th, next Wednesday.
Yes.
Where are you meeting?
9:30. And next week, yeah, I'm the pastor. I got to figure it out. We are meeting at, I think at Victory. Wait, where are we meeting? Bishop Sanders. Bishop Sanders in Chicago Heights.
Okay. Do you have an address?
Do you know the address? 1150 Wentworth Avenue. My wife called just in time.
Oh, awesome. 1150
Wentworth Avenue at the Church of God in Christ.
Okay.
In Chicago Heights. Bishop Sanders is the pastor.
And you're meeting there at what time?
At 9:30.
At 9:30. So all pastors in that area in the Southland community are invited to attend. Become informed, so you can be informational and motivational and inspirational to your community, and especially to your church and those people you lead. And let me challenge you, emulating Apostle White, his ministry, his impact, his outreach in the community. He has always been known as a powerful preacher, a progressive pastor, but also an ongoing activist who was always there to speak on behalf of the people. And so I'm excited to have had him.
I'm excited about
as our guest today, because I think he's a great example of what pastors can do in your own community, how you can care about people and be a difference maker in your community.
Man, I appreciate it.
And so I thank you so much. Tell us about your church on Hemlock. Tell them what time you worship, and folk in your community can come and visit you on Sundays, please. Share that with us before we...
Sunday school starts at 8:30 in the morning. We at 10 Hemlock, right next to the U.S. Bank.
That's in Park Forest, right?
Park Forest, Illinois. And we are, our services at 10 a.m. And Bible class on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. And with the doors open every day. We're open door. I got staff on every day. We're also working with this group that you met called Live Free.
Yes.
They are renting from me as a place to be able to get their information out. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, Live Free and myself and some others are going down to Springfield to try to get some funds to make sure we be able to reach out to those young men that are coming back from prison and needing a hand up to be able to help them do what they do. So our church is just, it is never one of them that's closed. We even got the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts meeting every week at our church.
Well, they should. Absolutely.
And
I commend you.
Let them do what they do. One thing that I just want to say to you, I'm so proud of the Lord. When I'm so proud of the Lord, I'm excited of your healing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because we need Donald L. Parson. We need you. You have been a prophetic voice in the community for years. And so many young preachers used to emulate you, but they didn't imitate you in the mental capacity. They listened to your sermon and emulated you. And so I'm saying to you, what you're saying to me now and saying to others who are listening, those of you that are listening, it's time for us as pastors not to worry about going to the convention and enjoy the convention, but it's time for us to bring the convention to the community.
Oh, I agree.
And make things happen with our size. If you're the largest convention, you can be the largest in the community.
I agree. I think the church has to have an impact. I threw out an idea. I had one of your good friends, you know, from the West Side during April, Pastor Ackley.
Oh, my friend, yeah.
And one of the things we talked about and we agreed to collaborate on, I gave him the idea of what if we could get 100 churches to give $1,000 a year, just as the Black church, and give away scholarships. Just once a year at a dinner or a banquet, but get 100 churches. And that would be less than $250 a month from 100 churches. And just think how impactful it would be if the Black church could just start out by saying, we're giving away all these scholarships, $100,000. And it's only $250 a month for 100 churches. And there are thousands of Black churches.
Oh, yeah.
In Chicago.
Yes.
Matter of fact, there's no reason why it could be done by South Side Black churches
Yes,
and West Side Black churches.
I was thinking,
You know,
thinking
it
that.
really could be done
Yes.
on every side of town. But just initiating something like that is a start for one, building up respect and appreciation for the church as a caring entity.
Got it.
For what's going on in the community, because the perception that is being projected and peddled among people who are not familiar with church, and we have at least 65 to 70% of African Americans under 30 who say they are atheists. Yes, youth under 30, at least 70% who've never been to church, don't go to church. And now we've got generations of people, not who only their grandmother didn't go to church, because we have people
Their mother didn't go.
Their mothers didn't go, because you have grandmothers, people who are grandmothers at 35 and 40.
35, yeah.
And so it's easy to imagine there are a lot of 35 and 40-year-old people who've never been in church unless it was a funeral.
We were taught to distrust each other. Even the church itself.
And specifically the church.
Yeah, and so the lack of trust thereof, well, who gonna take care of the money? Who gonna be over it? That spirit of trust. So just put it in the bank, put it in an investment. However you want to do that. That idea is a precious idea and a needed idea for us to showcase that we're gonna help get some folk in school.
And we care.
Yes. And so I love it. Now I'm gonna not only love it, but I'm gonna talk to the group that I
think it's something we should coalesce on.
That's good. Southland Ministerial Health Network will hear that offer and expand it to whatever you guys are doing, and we can collaborate.
And I think it's something doable. Man, we might be able to talk to Dr. Morris about doing a telethon.
A telethon on it.
You know, for our
Oh, that'll work. And,
you know, there's so many elements.
And my friend Ackery just, me and him talk all the time. I had him do my King's Day last year.
Well, wonderful. Hey, thank you so much, Pastor, for being my guest today. I appreciate you all for joining us today. You have been awesome. Thank you for joining me and Apostle White on the porch. Of course, I always enjoy conversation with you, and I love company, so thanks for coming to see me. I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Let me remind you that Logos Baptist Assembly has finally moved to a permanent location. We're at 4100 and 4106 King Drive. So join us there, if you will, this coming Sunday at 10 o'clock, and of course on Tuesday nights for our Bible study. and our full scale of services are about to begin, and we have our worship spot in all of the rooms and offices and stuff that we need now right on site. And so we are excited. We had an awesome time this past Sunday. Dr. Morris joined us, and I hope you will join us this Sunday. We'll see you at 10 o'clock. God bless you. I love you. And I'll see you next week, same time. Don't forget to stay tuned for my baby, Loveland's little convo for her great podcast. Love you all. Thanks again.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ, WVTC Allsip Chicago, and iNetworks Communication Station.